Hey, look at that. A double feature. What does that mean? It means I made 2 videos within 2 days that both had my voice in it. So, I'm going to be expanding upon some of the other ideas I had in the last video, where I briefly mentioned the lack of more than one objective truth. And what is that objective truth? Is that everything exists. No shit. But then you had to say, well, what about the stuff that does not exist? That also exists. Just by acknowledging that it does not exist, it now exists. You're giving it any sort of thought, that means it has to exist even at the slightest level. Now, I got a couple things here that I'm going to go over. I talked a little bit about the true robot idea. I haven't talked about anything about the snake circle, but I'm going to start with the varying degrees of existence. I'm thinking that everything does exist. Like, I'm thinking it's something like this. Like in math, that there's the whole concept on graphs is that if you have just an empty circle and a line and another empty circle, everything in between those circles and to the closest point but never actually touching the circles, it all exists. It's basically just it's just greater than. That's what it is. So basically, in this idea of there being varying degrees of existence, I would say that'd be something like something will always exist, but it will never be completely separate as an existence. It can never be completely defined as existing. Because there's always, overlap between things. You can never get to the very edge of something. Like, if you can, I don't know how to exactly put this. Like, where does the point at which the door, where can you fully define the door? Is it where the paint stops? Is it where the wood stops? Is it where a certain grain of wood stops? Is it where the air around the wood that is interacting with the wood stops? Where does the door completely stop existing? And it's always encountering, air movements and whatever, and that's always changing the shape of the door. But I'm saying that nothing is completely. You can't draw a line down the middle of something and say that these atoms are in this area, these atoms are in this area. Because even if you can go even smaller where there's just nothing in between, and you can't draw a line in literally nothing. So I'm saying that you can't exactly completely define something as existing, but you can never define it as not existing. So I don't know where you would put most things. I would say that there's probably, like, the graph of complete existence. I'd say, well, first let's define the actual axes of it. I said the y-axis is definitely going to be, level of existence. What would the x-axis be? Maybe it could be a thing with like graphs where it's just a placeholder for really any object. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that sounds nice. Maybe. I don't know what it would be. You can make it up whatever you want. But I think there would definitely be a plateau right above zero of not existing, and that would go on forever until eventually. Well, that's meant to be a straight line. Just imagine that's like as close to zero as possible without actually being at zero. Then there would be thoughts, and then almost directly above it, there would be everything else. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that looks really smart. Yeah, something like that. Where it would be like, yeah, that's looking nice. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's definitely going to be plateaus in whatever sort of graph this is. This will be the anything. This will be concepts. And this will be non-existent. where, as I just said, non-existent is going to represent everything that you say does not exist, but just by saying it does not exist, you are giving it some level of existence. I've just explained myself a third time. But now onto the snake thing that I was talking about. Now, I was thinking about the whole objective truth thing, and I came across the idea, well, what about math? 1 + 1 = 2, you can prove that a million times over. And without just pulling out my ass, the whole easy point, well, we're imperfect beings, so you can't really, use it in, what imperfect universe. No shit, I could use that, but I want to make it a bit more interesting. I don't want to go back to the same talking point, even though that's a decent one. I want to use something different. So I'm thinking I could use this idea of everybody having their own separate truth. And if everyone has a different sort of truth, or if everyone agrees on one truth, but there's one person that has a different sort of truth, then there cannot be an objective truth. Like, even just this idea. You can't even say this is an objective truth. This is just a theory. Because there's going to be people who disagree with me. There's going to be people who say that this is bullshit, including myself. But you can't fully call something completely true, not even math, within this theory. Within, I haven't even given this a name yet. Let's think. Let's call it only one theory. Yeah, because there's only one objective truth within the theory. And even that truth is of varying existence. To even imagine if there are things in between the non-existence concepts and anything. I'd say there probably are, but those are probably some weird looking things. I don't know what they would look like. But, like, in between concepts and anything, I don't know what those look like. I don't even know if those would exist. I don't even know my own theory, which is pretty cool. But, snake circle. Now, I decided to show this whole idea of you can't have one objective truth because everyone else is going to have their own truth, and that's going to muddy the waters by saying, just pretend that's a snake. Yeah, that's a good snake. Every snake would represent someone else's idea. Like, for certain topics, like, and they're all going in one giant circle. Like, there'd be a snake behind that one. Snake behind that one. You get the idea. But, yeah. The whole idea with that one would be that if everyone has their own separate idea, or if there are so many... Okay. If we were ever able to get one snake, it would... This is the only snake that ever actually got its own tail. The whole, everything existing snake. But, seeing how every snake, how there's an infinite number of snakes, because there's an infinite number of ideas you could have on something, you can never have more than 2 snakes ever. There's only going to be the one core snake. There's going to be massive snakes like the math snake. This is the math that everyone uses snake. But out there's going to be some crazy dude who's going to do some stupid stuff. And he's going to say some retarded shit. And he's going to make his own math. And that snake muddies everything. This snake ruins everything. The giant math snake was this close to being the actual, mega snake. The successor snake, the second snake. But it never got there because of idiots like you. It's all your fault. See what I'm saying? I'm saying that the imperfection of humanity is holding us back from getting the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth snake. I'm thinking math could be the best contender for the second snake because it's so close to it. And math being really anything empirical, like measuring. Well, no. Because there's no reference for math. You can't reference math except against itself. That makes me sound insane. I'm thinking that... Oh, I got one. Huh. Because I'm thinking, give me a minute. Okay. When measuring something, which I'm hopefully is the whole definition of math. When you measure something, you're going to use certain units, like centimeters, inches, and whatever. I'm thinking that... What's the reference for inches? How long is an inch exactly? You don't exactly know how long an inch is. Maybe they have... Because you can't measure in atoms how exactly long an inch is. You have an estimation of how long an inch is. Bam! Look at that. And there could be different sorts of inches for different sorts of people. So people could believe in the same ideas of math, but they'll have completely different snakes. Boom! That means that the second snake is even farther away. We can never have true snake. I'm believing that the only way we could ever have a second, a third, an infinite number of snakes is if there was a true robot. What is a true robot? I'm thinking out loud here. True robot is the perfect being. But the thing is, an imperfect, fallible being, as a human would in everything in this imperfect and fallible universe, can never even imagine the perfect robot. Because any of our ideas that or any of our goals that have a perfect solution, even if they are genuinely perfect, there's no flaws, there's no anything that goes outside of it, it's still going for an imperfect goal set by an imperfect being. So, even just this theory can also be called imperfect. It's getting close. It's getting close to perfect, but it's never going to be perfect. But an imperfect being can't define perfection because it can't get close to it. A perfect being can define imperfection, but an imperfect being couldn't. So you can never truly understand what the perfect robot would be, the true robot. What does this mean? If the true robot ever existed, what would it look like? I don't know. I'm theorizing, the perfect robot would encapsulate all of existence, including non-existence. The true robot would become its own universe, its own everything, its own, like the whole idea of multiverse and crap. I'm thinking the true robot would be the only one, it would encapsulate everything. Now, would it make it perfect? That's for the true robot to decide. But it wouldn't decide. It would just do. It doesn't have to decide. It would just do things. So, and you can never really verify if the true robot ever existed, could you? Damn it. Yeah. I'm just going to circle this and then. I'm thinking I covered some good ground today. That was pretty decent. Yeah. I might do another Psycho Box theory next time, but there's definitely a shorter video and much easier to make, so I'll see all of you later.